It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. I'm Jeff Grubb. I write for GamesBeat.com, and I hang out here on Giant Bomb with you all to talk about video games. This week we got some stuff to talk about. There's news happening right now. Square Enix is dropping trademarks and for Tactics Ogre games, and Remedy's announcing stuff, and there's all kinds of stuff happening this week. But I'll bring you some other stuff, and I'll be answering your questions. I will be doing that live. If you want to send in a question, you just hit that Ask a Question button there at the top of the page on giantbomb.com/chat. I think we should probably just get right into it. That's what I'm looking forward to doing. So yeah, let's hop right in. I got a list of stuff I want to talk about. Let's start with last week. Last week I said I've heard that Sony could be working on a PS3 emulator that would run on PS5. The key thing there is I've heard it would come early next year, but I'm just so hesitant about this because of the way that Sony talks about it to developers. To developers, they've been saying PS3 games are going to be streaming as part of this, as part of like what was Spartacus, what is now PS Plus, PS Plus Premium is the one that has the streaming, and PS3 stuff. They've been consistently telling developers that the stuff's going to be streaming. So I guess it wouldn't be that strange for them to be saying that and then waiting for PS4 to sort of fall away, because you could get PS Plus Premium on your PlayStation 4, right? That might be the key reason why we're not getting emulated stuff even on PS5 yet with PS3. I think the plan is they are working on an emulator for PS3 on PS5, and if they decide to release it, which they could scrap this work, like, let's be clear, I'm skeptical that this will ever see the light of day. And it's like, if I had to bet today, even having heard this, I would still bet they never actually release anything. But if they do, I think that the schedule that they follow is they get out of this year, they get out of 2022, they stop generally talking about PS4, and they begin talking more openly about PS5 only features for all of their stuff, all of their games, and PS Plus. And then that would make a sense. That would be the right time to announce, okay, and we have a PS3 emulator for PS Plus, and it only runs on PS5. So if you want to run your stuff native, you want to download those games, here's Metal Gear Solid 4 back for you. I think that would be the timing to do it, and I think that's probably why they're aiming for that. And that's why they haven't talked about it at all yet, because they have to present a unified front, because they are still really struggling to make PlayStations. At this point, with that, excuse me. At this point, with the way things are going with PlayStation production, it definitely seems like they hit more of a snag than anyone else. Like, obviously, Xbox Series X's are pretty easy to come by right now. Like, currently, I think this week, I don't know if that's still true, but the last couple of days that's been true. That you might be thinking, okay, so that should happen any day now with PlayStation. Hopefully it does, but PlayStation 5s have been not just in short supply. They've been there they have really struggled to keep up even with what they were doing last year. So normally what happens is your first year you have like a certain amount of systems you can get out, and the next year you expect to be able to make more. Well, worst case scenario they were hoping for this year was making basically the same number of PS5s this year as they did last year. That would have been like, okay, that would have been bad, but it would have been something that they also would have been happy to accept. Like, okay, that is a pretty terrible scenario, but we'll accept it. They continue to be below the production yield of last year worldwide. So that puts them in a situation where anything that is a PS5 only feature is going to continue getting pushed out. And also, like, how much do you invest in a PS5 only feature? Do you say, hey, this is something we want to rush out? It kind of doesn't make sense. So I'm hopeful in that I would really like Sony to go the emulation route with PS3, and I would like to see that, and I think it does make sense in the long run. PS5 could easily run this. They could easily figure this out. It would require some investment, but I think in the long run, it makes sense for them to invest in this, because it is their history being, not just encapsulated and saved and held up for future generations or anything like that, but it's stuff it could sell you again, and it's easier to sell stuff if you're bundling it with an emulator rather than just having people stream it online. But we'll see. There's plenty of time between now and early next year. Things could change, and like I said, I'm just skeptical personally because I don't know. It feels like this is the sort of thing that could just never actually come out, but we'll see. Remedy has been busy. They've told us that they are busy as well. So I think was it last year, maybe even the year before that, they mentioned they were working on 5 games, or they had five projects ongoing. And obviously, I think one of those was Crossfire X. That's now out and released and stuff like that, so that's behind them. But then they have Alan Wake 2, and they almost certainly have, I don't know if they've announced a Control sequel, but I think they did announce one with 505. I think that's probably in the works. They have a new project they're also making with 505. And the Alan Wake 2, that's with Epic Games. And I think they might even have another project with Epic Games as well. But now we also have Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes that they're doing in collaboration with Rockstar. So they have a ton of stuff happening. There is a lot of projects. They do have a lot of people over there working on things, but I think the hope would be that once the Crossfire team was fully done with Crossfire X, they could get to work on something real that Remedy fans would really care about, not just this contract business that they took. But yeah, they might even have another thing going with like Tencent, because that Crossfire X was a Tencent deal. So it sounds like they might have another one with them after that. So a very busy studio. You kind of want to see, you want to see the next game come out from Remedy and be high quality. Control was a very good game. I liked it. Some people's game of the year, and not necessarily mine, but I mean, I could recognize the quality. But Crossfire X, it's kind of, you run into that platinum cadence, right? Where it's like a good game and a bad game, a good game and a bad game. You kind of don't want to see that. You kind of want to see consistently pretty good games, especially for things that we all are looking forward to, like Alan Wake 2 Control sequels, Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes, and then anything new. Like, all those recognizable brands, you want those to come out and be very strong and very good. So I guess we'll have to see, but whatever comes out next from them, I guess I have no idea. It almost could be these Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes. I wonder how long those would take. I guess they're remaking them in the Northlight engine, so they're fully remaking them. But, Rockstar remade those Grand Theft Auto games in Unreal, right? So basically they just ported them to Unreal. I wonder if that's kind of what's going to happen here. You would hope that Rockstar has learned its lesson and is giving Remedy a real budget to make this happen. Let's talk a little bit about EA before we start getting to some of the questions. So EA Play is not happening. We announced, I said that here. They confirmed that. So that kind of really begs the question, like, what's happening with EA's big games? Like, well, there's things that we know about that we haven't heard about for a while, and what is the state of many of EA's projects and sort of strategy going forward? So let's start with Skate. Skate seems like it's still a ways off. I think I can't remember where it came from. There was a rumor that we might get more Skate stuff soon. I guess that's possible. I haven't heard that. What I've heard is Skate's still a long ways off, and I guess that doesn't mean that they couldn't show it in some form. But I think overall, I would not expect to get much from Skate for a while. Probably not through most of this year. I don't know. Maybe they could show something at the Game Awards later this year, but anything could show up at the Game Awards. But overall, I would not get high expectations to get a lot of Skate news, let alone the game anytime soon. Need for Speed, though, is still coming this year. I'm not exactly sure if they announced Need for Speed was coming this year. That might be a rumor as well. That's true. That game should be coming in November. And I suppose if you are a Need for Speed fan who has bought a next-gen console, here's some good news. It's next-gen only. They are shifting next-gen only for that. The tires will be rounder than ever, I suppose. I've also, there's rumors about where the setting is that I've heard. It's hard to pin down if these are for sure or not. I've heard stuff like Miami, which makes me think maybe they'll go an underground route. I don't know. I associate that with Miami with wet roads, and I associate wet roads with Need for Speed Underground. That could be leaps of logic that I'm making. So don't go run off and make a headline on that, please. But you can say the Need for Speed should be coming in November, and it will be next gen only. So hopefully we do get news about that sooner rather than later. I mean, we are in April right now. Just already April. Jesus Christ. It's going to be June. There's not going to be an EA Play. Where do they announce this? I suppose they could bring this to anything, right? This could be part of the Xbox showcase. I know that Microsoft definitely wants to get third-party partners in there. This is the kind of game that has an audience. Need for Speed is one that's never been. I like Need for Speed games, but I always forget that there is like Need for Speed players out there. People who just like, I play the Need for Speed games, and I'm always surprised by that. But it's a pretty significant audience, so maybe that's the kind of thing you could bring into a showcase to try to flesh out what you're doing at whatever E3 turns into, the summer game mess. And then, okay, finally, I was curious, so I was asking around about, like, what is EA's stance towards the Switch? They, I think it was, God, it probably wasn't this show. Where was it? I must have just been on GamesBeat, and I must have talked about it on some podcast or something, but EA had this point where they're like, we have, like, 6 or 7 games coming out for the Switch in the next year, and, like, there was, like, the Plants vs. Zombies, that shooter that sort of came and went, unfortunately, and a handful of other stuff. Nothing major. So are they planning anything like that right now? Is anything like that in the works? It doesn't really seem like it. If anything, it is just going to continue to be that FIFA, that like last gen FIFA game that they keep putting out every year. They're going to keep doing that. And then there's one other project that I think is in the works, and I don't know what it is. I don't think, the source I was talking to, they don't seem to know what it is, but apparently they also heard it wasn't very exciting. So also don't get your hopes up. I could tell you, I can answer your question right now. You could stop right now. Don't stop typing. Stop typing. It's not Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's not coming to the Switch. You're going to ask why? Because the world's unfair, and it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, like, you would think it would be able to run pretty okay on the Switch. Even if it's running at 30 frames per second, you kind of just want to get it on there because people would be happy to have that portable. No, I mean, and honestly, the first 2 games should run pretty good, even at like 60. Is it Mass Effect Andromeda? Yeah, they're jumping right to Andromeda. That's what we're getting. Jesus, that would be hilarious. Okay. I think that does it for me for my rundown. I saw a bunch of interesting questions kind of dealing with stuff that's been happening this week. So let's get into it. And let's do that right now. Let's hop over to the questions. Hey, there we go. Okay, let's start with Architect here. More anime stuff. Uh-oh. This picture reminds me of an Evangelion episode title shot. I don't know what picture you're referring to. But yeah, that's fair. From DuckTales Moon, did you eat your favorite pizza, Little Caesars, over the weekend? I did eat Little Caesars, like in the last week. I did, yeah. I just threw out the box, like before this show. So yes, I did, to answer your question. It was delicious. Now people are going to be like, Little Caesars, that's poor people food. First off, fuck you. Second off, if you're so against the hot and readies, just order the pizza fresh. Go order from them, and if it's like any other pizza place, it's very good. You get their Detroit style deep dish, it's very delicious. You heard me? You heard me, chat. Fight me. That's right. Propaganda Panda. Jan, did you order the all meat that you posted on Twitter? So Jan was in chat earlier helping people out. So we need updates on your all meat that you posted on Twitter, Jan. Tell us about the all meat. Slain McAwesome, the last episode ended with beef. I think, I wonder if I still have that. All of the things aren't lighting up anymore, so I wonder if my kids came down here and cleared that out. That would be devastating if I no longer had beef. I'm just gonna hit it. I don't think it did anything. That's devastating. I don't know what happened there. Hopefully it got saved. From Nylock, are there any rumors on what's next for Kojima? I mean, it's just kind of the same. We're in the mostly a holding pattern. There was no beef. Oh, that's devastating. He sounds like he's got multiple things in the works. It sounds like he's trying to also make movies and build out his studio. He's probably getting a lot of funding. But I do expect him to transition into working on those games that he's been talking about. He says he's got 2, and one of them's like this grand thing. It's probably going to be the cloud game with Xbox. I would imagine that deal, if it's not like fully closed, is spiritually closed. And now they're in a holding pattern for like figuring out when to talk about it. Because if you don't have anything to show, you're just going to bring Kojima out on stage. Well, okay, are you just going to do that, or are you going to have him show up on a Zoom call, or do you just announce you put Hideo Kojima's name up on a thing? Is that exciting enough? Is that, it is pretty exciting, but is that what Microsoft wants? Or do you want to like take time to build out a CG trailer? Or do you want to wait even longer till you have like some stuff to show from the game, which could take years, could take like at least a year to have something like that to show. So I think we're just in a holding pattern with that. From Maddie Hawks. Hey, Jeff, thanks for putting so much effort into answering everyone's questions. No problem. I appreciate the questions. This show is such a unique thing, and it's really appreciated. I'm happy to help. Question time. Has Ubisoft's disgusting behavior affected their relationship with Nintendo at all? Yeah, I mean, a little bit, I would assume. At the same time, Nintendo, I think, is kind of like any other corporation and would tell you, like, it's not our place to tell our partners how to behave. But we would be supportive of like their shareholders were trying to demand better from them or something like that. Something like the Rabbids game's not going to fall apart because Ubisoft has been bad. But does that mean they won't do a third Rabbids game? If the Rabbids games sell, they'll probably keep doing the deal. Most of the time, the people making these decisions are looking at bottom line factors and not necessarily the environment that the bottom line was created in. So I'm sure it has some effect, but whether that effect is material and something that we could point to, that I doubt. From DX Annex. Hi, Jeff. Finally got around to playing Cyberpunk 2077, and it got me thinking, are we ever going to see another Deus Ex game? What's up with that franchise? So Deus Ex is... right, that's Square Enix, because that's Eidos, right? And all of those Western studios at Square Enix are in a weird limbo where Square is like, oh yeah, they are making a new Tomb Raider game while they're also working for Microsoft to make it a Perfect Dark over at Crystal Dynamics. And what about Eidos, and what are they going to do next? They're coming off of their own. At least one of the Eidos studios is coming off their own Marvel game. What are they going to do next? Deus Ex, I'm sure, is probably on the table as a possibility. But I don't know how much heart Square Enix would actually put into that. I think we've seen so far like what the ceiling is for a Deus Ex game, a modern Deus Ex game, and that ceiling is like well below the ceiling for Cyberpunk 2077. And so you'd have to really rethink it. You'd have to really put a lot of effort into convincing people that are paying attention that, hey, this is not just the next Deus Ex game. This is the next big evolution in cyberpunk RPGs of any sort, even bigger than Cyberpunk 2077. And that's an uphill battle. That doesn't mean I don't think it should happen. I think they could probably find a middle ground where budget-wise, it makes sense for them to go ahead and make another one without it having to be the biggest thing ever. But this is Square Enix, and is that, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that they have a vision for what that could look like that they're happy with. They're never happy, right? Yeah, from Tom Payne. Hey, New Monkey Island by Ron Gilbert. Where were you on this, Jeff? I trusted you. Yeah, I was saying in the pre-show, they did a very good job of keeping the secret. They've been working on that for 2 years. So basically, like right around the time that we were, I guess, that the Lucasfilm Games thing happened a little bit before that. Because 2 years ago was only 2020. But whatever. John Drake got on the phone, covered himself in Diet Coke, made some deals happen in the beginning of the pandemic, apparently. And here we are. I'm impressed. I'm happy. This is exciting. I got some people that I know that are very huge Monkey Island fans. And I'm happy for them. And I want to play those games. I've never really played. I played them a little bit. Played it for a few hours and was enjoying what I played. But now I think it's time to go back and actually get into it. This is exciting stuff. To me, this is right where Lucasfilm Games should be operating. They should absolutely be looking for ways to just slowly ramp back up their old franchises that they, were known for when they were LucasArts. When it was like when they weren't necessarily making a million Star Wars games, they had a bunch of other stuff they were working on. And it was memorable stuff that sort of defined what gaming was on PC in the 90s. And stuff that could make sense as franchises today, especially under a Disney. And I was saying this on Nintendogs earlier this week. Disney wants that multimedia sort of approach to all their stuff. And, you make a Monkey Island game or, a new Monkey Island game, and then you make a Monkey Island cartoon for Disney Plus. And it's like, there's some synergy for you. And then who knows what happens next? Like, Disney loves their pirate franchises. Maybe instead of trying to rehab Johnny Depp's career, you just make a new pirate game or a new pirate movie, live action based on Guybrush Threepwood or whatever. Did I get his name right? Don't want to embarrass myself. I'm excited about this. I hope they do that. Like, they should just run through all of their franchises and really make the stuff work. And again, because it could be movies and TV shows and all this other stuff, and maybe eventually rides at Disney World. Long way. That's a long shot, but maybe eventually. These games don't have to be 25 million sellers. They don't have to be 10 million sellers. They could just have their cult audience, and Disney can find ways to capitalize on that. From Doug Foote, hi, Mr. Grubb. What are some things developers wish consumers understood better on the development business side? Also, Brad Marchand's a piece of shit. Marchand is absolutely. I was glad to see him get a little bit of stuff in the face at the end of that last game. I mean, developers kind of wish. I think here's the thing I wish gamers knew. I'm not a developer. When I talk to developers, they have all kinds of things they wish people knew, but they're also very understanding, and they like to just keep quiet, and they very rarely are they demanding of the gamer in terms of, you need to understand this about what we do. They've been media trained to the point where they're like, don't ever expect that from gamers. Here's what I wish gamers knew about game development. The engine is not what you think it is most of the time. It is just a tool. It is just a tool like anything else. And what really matters is who is using the tool. And so when like we hear stuff like The Witcher's going to be like moving to Unreal or something like that, that doesn't really mean all that much. Now, that doesn't always mean it won't have like a negative effect or a detrimental effect. When EA tried to force everybody onto Frostbite, and it didn't have great animation systems, and no one knew how to build the animation systems for it, well, it hurt some of those games, absolutely. But overall, especially if you're moving to something like Unreal, that is just like a movie moving to a Red camera, or a band moving to Gibson guitars at this point, because it's so well known and so familiar and so common, and so many people know how to use this tool, and they know how to build on top of this tool, that you're going to be able to get any and all kinds of games just depending on who is using it. It is very frustrating to like just hear people assume that an engine is what the game looks like, and if something else is using that engine, it's basically going to be that same game. It's just a series of tools. It's really all it is, and it's I think we're just lacking a vocabulary there, and this is not necessarily gamers' fault. It's kind of all our fault collectively that we haven't found a way to talk about the thing we mean when we say like it's the mise en scène is what people are kind of talking about in terms of gaming. Like, this is the gaming's mise en scène, and it's but we don't have a terminology for that, so we kind of default to engine, and it just doesn't actually mean what we're meaning what we say that. So I get frustrated by that, especially lately. It's been happening a lot lately. Let's see, from Mighty War Canoe. Good morning, Jeff. Just wondering if you know what ports Night Dive is currently working on, and if you have any updates on the release of their System Shock remake. I don't know what Night Dive is working on. I've said before, I'm pretty friendly with MVG, so even if I did know the stuff, I would be hesitant to share it, because it would seem like it would be obvious. Oh, he got that from MVG. They talk all the time. So I don't want to like. I don't know. He doesn't tell me. And I'm happy that it doesn't tell me. I don't want to know. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So, as for like the release of their System Shock remake, I'm sure they seem very competent about this stuff, and they're probably just trying to get that back on track. I think they have said that stuff is still coming. The System Shock remake is still coming. So hopefully it's soon. From Bad Egg Games, what's the best Screwhead? Phillips, Square, Robertson, Torx, Hex? I think I like Torx. I definitely hate Phillips. Phillips head is they always strip on me. They always strip. Every time. And I'm sure I'm probably just using cheap tools or cheap screws, but a lot of times it's like screws that come with something. So they're using cheap screws. And I've started using the iFixit kit, which is better about not stripping stuff because it's better. But I think like yes, like a Torx 6-pointed star. There is enough. Literally, I think that's why I haven't like looked into it, but I'm pretty sure it's literally why they call it Torx, because you could apply a lot of torque to it without having to worry about stripping the part. And God, it's frustrating when things get stripped. I've spent so many hours of my life trying to get stripped screws and bolts out of stuff and cutting my hands in the process, I'm sure. From Z-Crits, what's the beef on the Max Payne remake? God, I wish I still had my beef button. I wish I had a beef button. I don't know. I would expect this to be a better remake / remaster than what we got from Grand Theft Auto, but I'm also not going to get my hopes up too high that this is going to be like some modern looking game. Like I'm not expecting Final Fantasy VII remake. I just don't expect that from any sort of thing that calls itself a remake until I see it. From JP Terps fan, surely the first thing Sony changes with their new subscription is to provide a discount to day one first party games, right? I don't know. I asked about this because I get a lot of my games from my job, so I don't end up buying a lot of games. And when I do buy them digitally, but I'm not necessarily always like looking for the deal. I'm like, I need this game for work or whatever, or because I really want it, and I just end up buying it, and I don't like necessarily look for a deal. But I know like with Xbox Game Pass, you get discounts on every game that's like first party at least, and I think every game that's in Game Pass, if you decide to buy it, you get that discount. And I think seems like a pretty fair thing, right? At the very, because it's just more money on top of someone already giving you the subscription fee, right? And so it's like, why not encourage that? Because it's like, this is the person that, I don't know, they have the reasons. I'm sure they've done their math. I think it's a good idea. They might have a very good reason for not doing it. But at the very least, like, a 5% discount seems like kind of something they could easily eat and it wouldn't hurt them all that much, especially on digital games where their margin is already significantly higher. I don't know. From the Marmalade, I saw Mike Minotti at the grocery store in Los Angeles yesterday. I told him how cool it was to meet him in person, but I didn't want to be a douche and bother him and ask him for photos or anything. He said, "Oh, like you're doing now." I was taken aback. Yeah, Mike Minotti, especially LA Mike Minotti, very, very rude. Just a rude LA bro. From Casual, dear Chef Grubb, hope you are well. No question this week. Just want to express my excitement that you and Mike are going to make things in person again. Yeah, we're June. Look out for June. We got the appraisal back on the house, so it was good news. It was all good news from the appraisal, so that was very nice to see that. And so yeah, soon, by early June, we'll be making stuff in person. It's me. Hey, Darth Grubb. I hope the frames hold up. Let's take a look. So far, so good. 0 drop frames. Will Sony ever financially recover from people giving them their money to extra PS Now time? Right? Okay, yes. This is my... This first occurred to me with the Xbox thing, where like people are like, man, I'm getting one over on Microsoft. I just paid $1. And then I also paid $180 to get 3 years of Xbox Live Gold, and it all transformed into Xbox Game Pass. Ha 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 ha! Look at these deals I'm getting. I'm like, you gave them $181. What are you talking about? Like or even if it was discounted, even if it was like $40 per year or something like that, which I think that's reasonable. That's still what? That's $121 that you're giving them. If you're giving anyone over $100 and you think like for anything and you kind of think you're getting a really good deal, especially if it's all digital stuff, okay, fine. You're not. They've tricked you. Now, I think Sony is trying to get rid of their these cards so that people can take advantage of this. But at the same time, they're not going to be in any ruins because you're giving them a lot of money all at once. These are people who were not buying PlayStation Now before, rushing out to buy PlayStation Now and transfer that into their PS Plus Premium or whatever. Yeah, this is not going to hurt Sony. Blackheart Vinyl, so is Remedy a 50-team studio now? Seems like it. I mean, I'll say that, one of the we talk about every week, very hard to find enough talent. So that's the one thing you always wonder, like, how could they possibly be working on so many things? But, at the same time, we're coming out of a period where it was very, very easy to get a lot of money to build out your studio. Funding was very easy to come by. I think even as interest rates increase, capital's still relatively inexpensive, and at the same time, people are looking for safe places to put their money to work for them. If you watch enough TikTok, eventually you learn that it's all about spending your money on assets, not liability. And a lot of rich people have found out that spending money on video game companies is an asset. And so there's still a lot of money going around. And if you are a company like Remedy, you can position yourself to take a lot of that money from, Tencent or whoever else and try to build out your studio as much as possible, get a lot of teams going and get a lot of projects going, because that growth is going to make you really appealing if you ever decide to sell. And that growth is also going to make it so that you can have a more consistent release schedule and sort of a more reliable revenue stream going forward. And the more stuff you put out, the more stuff you can license the Game Pass or whatever other service. And again, it's just all that stuff sort of builds on itself and makes it make sense over time. From It's Just Kevin V, what companies tend to play things close to the chest that would surprise people, i.e. Sony, Rockstar, companies like those? Sony is very, if you're being close to the chest in terms of, getting leaks and getting news out of them, Sony's really battened down the hatches in the recent years. Rockstar, absolutely. Rockstar's, yeah, they're their own beast of, trying to report on them or criticize them ever is always going to lead to phone calls and stuff like that. So yeah, they're their own thing. I don't know. Right now, the most recent, because it's the one that people are most interested in, is Sony. Because people want to know what's going on. They have God of War. Well, what's after God of War? What are they doing next? What's going on with PS5 production? What's just going on at that company? And it's very hard to get answers because they're very quiet. They're very good at keeping leaks under control for the most part. MockBucket62, hey, Mr. Grubbums, any news on that Avatar game Ubisoft announced last E3? I feel like there was some news recently. I don't have anything. But is that movie coming out this holiday? So I would imagine we'll hear about it pretty soon. I think it's supposed to come out soon. I'm morbidly curious about it because it can't possibly be good, right? But what if it is? And I've talked about it before. I'm an Avatar fan. I like Avatar 1 quite a bit. From Candivore, with Steam Deck seeming to deliver on its promise, and what does Switch 2 need to bring to the table to go beyond being a Nintendo game exclusive device? So Steam Deck definitely is delivering on its promise, especially in terms of hardware and power and portability for what it is. And Switch 2 is going to come out, and what can it do to not just be a Nintendo game exclusive system? Well, I think a big part of it is that Switch 2 can rely heavily on being a Nintendo game exclusive device, as long as the people buying it are the same people kind of showing up for the Switch, which is families. And that's a group that's probably not going to end up buying the Steam Deck anytime soon. Until you can get a Steam Deck at Best Buy, Walmart, which seems like years off at this point, at least a year off. I would be surprised if we get Steam Deck in stores this holiday. But if we do, even if we do, that doesn't change this too much. Nintendo's still going to own that family audience, and that family audience is going to show up for Nintendo games, party games, and then there's going to be people in those households who are going to be like, oh, what's the latest indie darling? What's the latest Among Us? What's what is the latest Dead Cells? And those games will continue to sell best on Switch and Switch 2. So it kind of just needs to mostly replicate what it's done for the most part. At the same time, I think there is a growing potential for a Switch 2 to be able to deliver enough power with enough software tricks like DLSS and potentially deep learning, frame sampling and stuff like that. Not just super sampling in terms of resolution, but Giant Bomb's audience, motion smoothing for games that actually works. So filling in frames with using AI so you can get a 60 frames per second from a 30 frame source. Now I know that sounds awful, but a lot of people are working on this. NVIDIA is definitely working on this. Maybe that's something they could introduce with a new Switch. And if they do that, and it works, which is a big caveat, And it's not like the terrible motion smoothing on most TVs that you should never use with games, because that's a terrible idea. The latency on that would be gross. But if they're able to pull that off, then most third-party games coming to modern systems should be able to work on a Switch. Like, you knock down the resolution to 720p, but there's nothing wrong with that on a handheld. I think that, you know, they could be in a position to get a lot of those third-party games, but at the same time, it does not need them. Nintendo has not needed them. You know, it's never sold as much software as a PlayStation system that has had like all these Call of Duty games and all this other support from these third-party games. But they sell more of their own software than anyone else. And then these indie games have really filled in a huge gap for Nintendo of like, well, what else do you have? You have your own games. What's in the other hand? Well, now it is Hades selling millions of copies on the Switch alone. And there's like a lot of games sort of replicating that success. And they're just going to keep going for that. They see a future where this indie market that is thriving on the Switch more than anywhere else continues to grow and get bigger and making bigger games. And they want to keep those relationships going. And I think they're mostly right that that is the path forward for them. Let's see. From Eat the Hype. Morning, Jeff. Was the Coalition's recent tech demo for UE5 the smaller game you reported they were working on before the next Gears? No, they've been doing these tech demos, and they've been helping with like the Matrix tech demo. They are working on a separate real video game that will really release as a video game product. That is smaller and not Gears and off to the side, sort of off to the side from what they normally do. But no, it's not. I kind of heard this around the time of the Matrix demo, and when I looked into it, it's like, no, they have an actual game in the works made in Unreal Engine 5, and all this tech demo stuff is facilitating that. That tech demo looked really pretty, though. Really impressive stuff. I thought it looked very good. From PJ24. Howdy, Mr. Grubb. Have you heard any rumblings about what Swery is up to? Only thing I vaguely know is that he was starting working on a horror game with Suda51 a while ago. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard. Usually for them, it's like, you know, when they have something, they'll announce it. There's no real big reason to sort of try to suss those out before they're ready. So when they're ready, they'll announce it, and I'll be as excited as anyone else. Him and Suda51 working together on a horror game sounds like a great idea, though. From Tokoto, can we expect any other classic LucasArts franchise to make a comeback? I hope so. I think so. I think while Monkey Island is the right place to start, this shouldn't be a one and done. And also it should not be like, if Monkey Island doesn't sell 1 million copies, we need to completely rethink our strategy. Their strategy should just be, let's go back to the vault. Let's see what we can bring out. Let's see if we can build up some excitement for these things, and just keep them alive, keep them relevant, and find other ways maybe to capitalize on them. Even if it's like, you know, selling merchandise based on these things in the future or something like that, or building towards, you know, some new idea that involves a lot of these franchises. I don't know. But I don't think this is not the last. I don't think it should be. I don't think it will be. I think this is a part of an overall strategy that we will see be executed on for at least a few years. Blackheart Vinyl asks, beef? Man, hopefully that stuff got auto-saved. I'll have to see if it's in my GoXLR like folder somewhere. From Zcrits, what are your thoughts on Lego Skywalker Saga? I've been playing it. I'm enjoying it. It's pretty good. It's you know, it's just as chill and sort of low key as many of the other Lego Star Wars games and Lego games, but bringing that camera down to a third-person perspective, sort of amping up the visuals, playing it on Steam Deck where it actually runs pretty well. I've been really just sort of like plugging along where I'm like, oh yeah, and I started with the Phantom Menace, and like, you know, I'm not a huge fan of the prequels, but like still it's like, oh yeah, there's like elements here that I really like. It's cool to just be like playing as Qui-Gon Jinn, and then the next scene, oh, we're just gonna do the entire pod race. Like they just made those movies, and they really like did everything from scratch and really made it feel like you're playing through those stories, and that is nice. It's pleasant, and I'm enjoying myself. I don't know if I'll have the momentum to get through all like the whole thing, but so far I'm having fun checking in on it here and there throughout the day and playing a little bit of it at a time. From Uric the Oddball, between Triangle Strategy, Diofield Chronicle, and now a new trademark for Ogre Battle, Could Square Enix be gearing up for a new Final Fantasy Tactics or a reboot? Now, Final Fantasy Tactics was in the NVIDIA leak along with Ogre Battle. It was Ogre. I called it Tactics Ogre. Is that the same thing? I'm mixing these things up, but yeah, I think yes, Ogre Battle was in there. I think some of these other ones, like a lot of these other games, have been in there. There is a Final Fantasy Tactics remake listed in the NVIDIA leak, so I think so. We should probably hear about it soon. But the problem is that we got Diofield Chronicle, and we got Project Triangle Strategy and stuff like that. And these are games that are existing in that wheelhouse. It's like, okay, are they also going to do Final Fantasy Tactics as well? I still think yes, they will, but maybe it's a little bit further off than we expected. Tactics Ogre is the sequel to Ogre Battle sister series. Thank you, everybody. I was just conflating them a little bit, and I couldn't get it out of my brain. From Timonius. Just finished my yearly replay of Mario RPG. Excellent. Who is in your trio going up against Smithy? I don't know. I usually probably end up with Gino, and I try to go back to Mallow, even though because I like his healing stuff, but I don't know. I mix it up. I don't think about it too much. Honestly, I get to that point, and sort of whoever I'm using is what I'm going to end up using. But I love that game. I broke my Retroid Pocket 2, and I was like halfway through a playthrough on that, and I just haven't had the time to transfer that save to my Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. But when I do that, I'll continue my most recent playthrough. It's a good way to play that game. Mario, Bowser, Peach. Yes, I do end up actually using Peach a lot in that fight as well. Bowser's great as well. From DX Annex, how does PS3 run on Steam Deck? Very well. Runs very well. The biggest thing is the battery life. RCPS3, I can't remember, RPCS3, however you say that. The PS3 emulator on Steam Deck is pretty good. It's very power hungry. Now the open source team that works on that has a Steam Deck, and they've been messing around with stuff. I think they're working on making it more efficient. But it is a PS3 emulator has to do a lot of work, so it makes sense. But when it comes down to it, you could play a PS3 game for at least an hour and a half, 2 hours on there, and that's really, and it works very good if you drop it down to 540p, and if you do integer scaling, I think, or something like that, it looks great, looks fine. But even a 720p, you're going to be able to get that solid 30 frames per second from games that run at 30 frames per second. Persona 5 was on PS. God, was that on PS3? Jesus Christ, that is so weird. Every time I think about that, and it's so yeah. I was playing that, and it was running great. It looks great at 720. Most of those games run at 720 at max, so that's fine. But again, if you need those extra frames, so you're trying to get from 55 to a solid 60, I just drop it to 540, and it looks great and runs great. Yeah, you played it on PS3, huh? Man, weird. I suppose it's fine because it was running great on Steam Deck on the PS3 emulator, so I'm sure it ran great on PS3. It's just so weird to be at this point thinking about the Persona franchise, thinking about where we're at, kind of waiting for Persona 6, having gone through all of the PS4 and it came out on PS3 at the same time as well. It's just so weird. From Sevward, this isn't a question, but I deleted 99% of my email inbox because it's garbage, and I'm now the most powerful being in the universe. How's your day going? I'm still ADHD, so let's take a look. I have 15,000 unread emails in my personal email and 134,000 emails in my VentureBeat email. Just don't look at the number. Out of sight, out of mind. I do not have a prefrontal cortex. Okay. Oh yeah, and we got a loan approval. All right. Gotta make sure I read through that. Okay, great. Let's see. Sorry, I got distracted. Look. All right, chat. We're going to be judgy now. I get so many emails. Going through each email, I've tried so many times to be an inbox zero person. It's not for me. It's never going to happen. If you need to contact me, you can text me or DM me on Twitter, and that'll be a way to get a hold of me. I will probably see your email. I click the important tab. I go through those, And if Google tells me you're important, then I'll read your email. I did miss I did miss the review copy for Star Wars, Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, because I was not paying attention to my email. But hey, we all have sacrifices, all right? We all make mistakes. Shit. Wow. All right. How does PS3 this okay from Echidna from GX Echidna. Morning, Mr. Grubb. What is actually up with that open world Sonic game? If they're planning on releasing it this year, shouldn't we have seen actual gameplay by now? I mean, it's Sonic. There are no rules. There's no rules. They can do whatever they want. And those heathens in the Sonic fan community will show up and buy it. It's I would suppose so, but also it's like been kind of weird. Like they were like talking with the press about this game a while ago, and then they went like silent on it, and then they announced it, and then the name changed, but it's still like this open world game that was definitely trying to do the Zelda Breath of the Wild sort of intro, and I don't know. You know, they got the movie coming out. Maybe they're like right in the wake of the movie, we'll announce more stuff on the game, or maybe the game's not ready. I mean, isn't that the most likely thing? The game's just not very good yet, and they need to take more time. I mean, it is Sonic. From QJT, is there any chance of PlayStation reviving MotorStorm? Could MotorStorm be? Do you think MotorStorm could be one of the 10 live service games that Sony is working on? I'm sort of on the fence. I don't think so. I think they have their driving game that's going to be their well, you know, they have their sim driving game that is their live service game. Could they do a more arcadey one that is their live service game, to have their equivalent to Motorsport to Horizon, and have that be MotorStorm? I suppose, but I don't think so. I just don't think so. I think for Sony, they're happy to let third parties do that kind of game, and they're gonna find something else. But I guess we'll see. I would lean towards no. From Looter Jennings, why is IGN trying to pay contractors $20 for news aggregation? They have to see the optics, right? Yeah, I don't know. I got a little. I don't know. I don't run a big site. I would not. That price seems very, very low to me, even for an hour's worth of work for writing for a big site. The optics do look bad. That's a company that makes a lot of money. So if I was in that position, I would I don't know. I would have been kind of embarrassed to share that number. But the people who are out there like saying, "Hey, I'm trying to hire freelancers. This is our rate." They're often not the people setting the rate. They're just kind of doing what they can do with what they have. I guess that's not an excuse, but I'll say that I have a couple of freelancers that kind of work in a, they come in, they do some stuff every couple days per week, and we pay them much better than that. And we make a lot less money than IGN. So I don't know. It's not great. It's not a great look. From Durfee, did you hear anything from Dead Island 3? No, I haven't heard anything about Dead Island 3 in a long time. I'm always surprised when that name comes back up, because I've filed that one mentally and it's never coming out. And recently it's been bubbling up more that there is something that's going to happen with the next Dead Island. Is it even Dead Island 3 or is it Dead Island 2 and Riptide was not even a real sequel? I can't even remember anymore. But the next Dead Island, it does seem like they say it's still coming. I don't know what to make of that. From Feature Creep, the console versions of 7 Days to Die haven't been updated in months because of legal BS. You have any more insight on that? No, I haven't heard that, so I'll look into that. That's weird. Okay. It's always frustrating when that's the stuff that gets in the way, but I'll see what's happening there. See if it has a chance of coming back. Has been updated in months. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into it. From Macan. Hi, Jeff. Love the show. Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you consider cheese twists to be a worthy snack? That's what I have. Cheese twists. Is that like an Australian version of cheese of Cheez-Its or something, or like Cheetos maybe? Is it a combination, a mutant of Taco Bell's cinnamon twists and a Cheeto? Is that what I'm imagining? Is that what I should be imagining? If so, yeah, the cheesy powdery snacks aren't really for me too much. I will occasionally go for a Dorito, and that's where I kind of draw the line. Cheetos for me are too cakey on my fingers. I have sensory issues. That stuff really bothers me. I can't like do anything else if there's shit on my hands like that. So it's like, oh, this is my day now until I wash my hands. It's just, I am this monster. So it's a mental thing more than anything else. But in terms of like what it's a British thing. Well, then no, there's no way, because the British don't have any good snacks. Sorry, I've decided always to be very harsh on the British on this show. That's going to be my character. Let's see. Wild Wild West versus Pootie Tang. I'll probably go Pootie Tang, actually. Listen, the director being who he is, yeah. From Esteban8612. Hey, Jeff, any idea how well Ghostwire Tokyo is performing? Any chance a sequel ever comes out on a Sony console? Oh, I don't think a sequel will ever come out on a Sony console, no. Do you think Ghostwire Tokyo could end up in PS Plus Premium, though? Or PS Plus Extra? I'm like wondering like if there's a chance that they could make that deal and it comes out to like Game Pass at the same time. I doubt it, but I've been wondering. I got the VR headset. Now she wants to play in VR. Yeah, okay, yeah, she's going upstairs. When I'm done, kiddo, they like to, there's a, like a horsey ride, 3D video they like to watch. And also she likes to go to the city. And there's a flyover thing of New York City. And she's like, "Oh, I'm in the city." And she's 3. She barely understands what a city is, but she likes it. I'll ask her if a city is a meep. Feature creep. Does Ubisoft Quartz make money, or was it a complete flop? I can't see how it would have made money. I mean, how much did it cost to create the stuff? It probably made some money, but did it make like other NFT money where like they keep selling and growing in terms of value over time? No. The big issue is the NFTs that they were selling sucked. They were just these tiny little like custom serial numbers on the gun that no one could actually see, right? So in order to make something worthwhile or like seem like it has worth, you have to trick people, right? You have to trick people. And the way you trick people is by positioning something as, oh, it's going to make you look cool. Well, if no one could see the shit on your gun, no one's going to be jealous of it. Then you can't monetize that jealousy. Like, no, it failed. It was a flop. From Arjun and Square Enix trademark Tactics Ogre Reborn. Yeah, we saw this. I'm excited. That's great. It's nice that they are continue to put out stuff like that. Nice to see that the NVIDIA leak continues to get stuff right. So that's fantastic. Eat the hype. Will EA ever try to bring more sports games to the Switch or Switch 2? Yeah, I mean, doesn't seem like it. They got FIFA, and it seems like that's it. I would love to have NHL. I know that's not going to happen. I'd like to have NHL on PC, though, so I could play it on my Steam Deck at least. Even that's not happening. So, no, I don't think so. I mean, what they would put Madden, I guess the golf game might make sense. But the golf game got a little delayed, right? So I think the golf game from 2K Pro Tour, or whatever it is, that seemed to do okay on Switch. And I think did I buy it on Switch? No, I don't know if I did, but I thought about it a bunch of times. But I know right now, it seems like the only sports game that is going to keep coming to the Switch is FIFA. Maybe this other game that is not exciting is a sports game, and that's why it's not exciting. But I don't think so. From Slugox, who will win the Stanley Cup this year, and why isn't it the Canucks? Yeah, I mean, because Florida just looks like they're gonna eat up everybody in front of them. I mean, you still got Tampa Bay out there. I suppose this is like even if the Canucks get to the Stanley Cup Finals, but Toronto, it could like turn it on. If Toronto gets on a roll, like that'll be tough for a lot of other teams. But I mean, Florida just looks so, I mean, Carolina, I guess it's a lot of teams in the East that are going to be tough. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Vancouver can get into the finals. That'd be cool. From Taltos. Morning, Grubster. Any idea what the Epic X Lego Metaverse stuff is going to be? Just a safe game place for Lego with Unreal Engine 5 or what? Yeah, I don't know. I think that, they've done like Lego World and a bunch of stuff where they tried to meld Lego with Minecraft before. I think that I think it's probably just going to be another take on those, but now with like the power of Epic kind of fueling it, with, you know, they could make it like this. They know how to do an online game, big online space, and make it focused on all kinds of other stuff with sort of Lego happening in the background. To me, it makes a lot of sense. It's the right idea for like a children's metaverse sort of project. You know, as much as anything could be a metaverse that is competing with Roblox, which is pretty much an actual metaverse, a horrifying one, but a real one. And you know, you're going to have to try to compete with that. So you're going to be like the corporate alternative to Roblox, maybe more friendly to parents, but kids are probably still going to go towards Roblox. As long as Toronto doesn't embarrass themselves in the playoffs, it's a successful year. Well, good luck with that. If they drop out of the playoffs, it'll probably be because they did something embarrassing. Yeah. From Feature Creep, any more news on Armored Core now that Elden Ring is out? No, they're still very much like, let's continue to improve and polish Elden Ring. I mean, it's so successful that anything they put into Elden Ring right now will be worth it. And that's how they're looking at it. From DX Annex, have you tried the Batman calzone? No. So, Little Caesars has a Batman calzone pizza where it's a pizza and the corners are folded in like a calzone. So it looks like the Batman symbol. But what it really looks like is a pad. And I have no issues with pads. I'm just not a big fan of my pizza looking like one. So what can we do about this? I decided not to eat the Batman calzone. That's what it looks like. So, I mean, if you want to like look up a picture of it, I mean, you'll see it immediately. So I've decided against it. I'm like, oh, it's not appetizing. That's all. Tommy Dingo, do the sales of Chrono Cross affect the possibility of a Chrono Trigger remake? Official #1 Chrono Trigger fan. No, it's Square. Who knows what affects what? They don't know. They don't know what they're going to decide tomorrow based on what happened yesterday. They're just going to continue doing whatever they were going to do, and they will make up reasons for why they're doing it. That's Square Enix. So, no, I don't think so, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get one. I would hope so, but Jeff Grubb is a coward. So I'm from Michigan until I was 15. When I was 15, I moved to Ohio, and I had always heard about this guy on our public access television that like caused a big stir, and he was on Sally Jesse Raphael. And apparently, like he thought he was a vampire, and he would like interview vampires and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well that sounds awesome. And I kind of like got the gist that like he was doing stuff involving blood on the public access channel. And one time, I was watching the public access cable television channel, and he was there. He was on. And boy, free speech is a hell of a thing, because he was just straight up gnawing on a Batman calzone pizza, but not a Batman calzone pizza. And I'm like, whoa, this is on television. What is going on? Oh my God, I'm 15. I don't quite understand what's happening here. So yeah, Sally Jesse Raphael, not very pleased with him. So I'll figure I'll just ask him to eat one of those pizzas and tell me what it's like. I got from Who Sniffed Me. I gotta know, is Beyond Good and Evil 2 dead? I think so. Here's what I think. I think Beyond Good and Evil 2 is dead. And yet, Beyond Good and Evil 2 might still come out as something else. If that game comes out, they have rebooted development, turned it into a completely different thing. Probably, and here's a crazy idea, they're probably going to make a game that's a lot like Beyond Good and Evil 1 and just release that instead. I do not think the thing that they position as Beyond Good and Evil 2 ever turned into anything close to a game product ever. From Mellotron Rules, any smoke on the street regarding that long belabored Last of Us 2 multiplayer? Heard it was being retooled from a battle royale to a more fleshed out standalone thing. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely one of the 10 live service games that they're focused on. And I don't know. I wonder if part of the delay is to see if they can get Bungie under the roof to have a look at it before it launches. That wouldn't surprise me that is like part of the hope here, or at least to get it in as good a shape as possible so it launches with the best possible live service launch, so it can have a long life. I don't know. To me, it seems like a wasted effort because I can't imagine a world where The Last of Us 2 multiplayer just on PlayStation systems is some massive success in terms of like on the level of an Apex Legends or anything like that. Maybe it comes out on PC at the same time. I suppose that's definitely possible. They've talked about doing stuff like that in the past. Maybe that's what's going to happen here. But even then, I just don't see like us 5 years from now talking about the latest update for Last of Us Multiplayer 2, Last of Us 2 multiplayer and how it's bigger than ever or anything like that. But I could be wrong, and they're going to go for it. And if it's this big thing, I mean, if it is like their take on Tarkov or something like that, I don't know. I could see that ensnaring that PlayStation audience and being like, oh, they're just playing that all the time. When they're not playing one of these massive, giant blockbuster games that you look forward to for 5 years and then play over a weekend and then you put down forever. Like in between those, this is the game they're always going back to. I suppose that could happen. But yeah, they're just continuing to work on it, just like they have been. That's all I've really heard. Let's see. Okay, we're getting pretty cleose to the end here. I'm gonna make it not a super long show this week, but let's keep going for a little bit longer. From Name Leaks, do you know anything about Starfield? Surprised there haven't been more leaks with the number of people working on it. You know, it's I don't know. Like, what could leak? Like, we could leak gameplay. I mean, they're pretty good at locking that stuff down, and I don't know. I'm not out there trying to get Starfield gameplay to leak to people. And then, you know, if like details leak about like what it plays like, how useful is that for me to relay to anybody? You kind of need to see it in context. I think you kind of need to see it for yourself. At this point, I think you kind of need to play it for yourself. I mean, we haven't seen much of it, so we'll see it, and then I think we're going to be like still in this weird position where like, okay, maybe it looks good, but I don't know. At least that's how I've been recently with most of these games. I'm like, I just need to play it myself. As exciting as all this stuff is, I just want to play it before I make any sort of judgment. And of course, that makes sense. But I think with something like Starfield, it's especially that way, just because it's like this new take from the studio that's done these couple of things. Now they're doing something different. And I just kind of need to play it myself to decide if I'm even excited about playing it. So it's like, I don't know. If like tidbits were to leak out, I think it's hard for them to propagate everywhere because like there are people out there who can tell you a lot about Starfield right now. I got a guy in my Discord and I talk to him frequently. I mean, here, you want to know something about here's a leak from Starfield. There's going to be a watch that you can get. A real watch that is part of and you might have heard about this, but it's like something that's leaked. They haven't announced this, I don't think. It's their pre-order bonus, like sort of like the Pip-Boy thing they do, but it's going to be a real working, functioning watch that like tracks your altitude and stuff like that. It's got all kinds of like special high-tech features. It looks fun. It looks cool. But I mean, what does that do for you? I still feel like, okay, yeah, I could talk about the stuff that is out there that the Starfield community which exists. You know, I'm not sure if they would even call themselves Starfield fans yet, but they're definitely the Starfield community. They've tracked down a bunch of these small little details, pieced them together, and they have a pretty good idea of what that game is. The reason that we don't bring it to this show is I imagine most of your eyes glazing over, like a James Bond watch. Like a James Bond watch, absolutely. Yes, Starfielders. I imagine your eyes glazing over as I try to relay to you what I've heard from this community and from other leakers and from things I've been able to gather myself. Because really, I just think you need that context of what that minute-to-minute gameplay is like, and we won't get that till we see it in action. So if you're very interested, check out the Starfield Reddit. Come in my my Discord, and I think we have a Starfield channel. If we don't, I'll set one up. You can ask some people there what's going on if you're super interested to find out. But otherwise, wait a couple months. They're going to do a big blowout, and everyone will know what it's like in a couple months. All right. Well, I guess that gives us a few more minutes. I'm going to scroll to the top. If I skipped your question, ask it again. I'm going to start working my way down. What's up with Skull and Bones? That's still real. That's from GrubbSnax. I mean, it's definitely in like a bit of development hell. They still want to release it because they don't want to pay back money to the government of Singapore, which they borrowed to help make that game, or they got granted to them as long as they release the game, I suppose. So something could come out. I imagine at a certain point they are just going to fire and forget that. Yeah. Oh, here, not a question, but from Jason Schreier on Twitter just now. If this is from Megasome. Activision Blizzard just told staff that all of its 1,100 quality assurance testers will be, 1, converted from contract to full-time, and 2, bumped up to at least $20 an hour. Great news. Well, that's something. I wonder if that is part of like building up a portfolio of good news to present to Elizabeth Warren, right? Say, please stop yelling at us. I bet that doesn't work, but I wonder if it's part of like, we're going to build a 3-ring binder of things that have improved just since we've announced this acquisition. Blackheart Vinyl, assume all the usual cast is in Mario Strikers. Who will be your 4-person team? Are they doing 4-character teams? Because the way it worked in Mario Strikers, at least I didn't play the Wii one. On GameCube, you would pick your player character, and then you would have like basically a bunch of minions that ran alongside you, like either Toads or Koopa Troopas or whatever, Goombas or something like that. But if you can, I haven't looked that closely. If you can have like your own 4-person team, probably Wario, Waluigi, Daisy, and Peach. So the girls and the bad boys. That'd be my team. Megasim, some kind of binder full of good news. That's right. Oh yes. Okay, is Bacular drunk yet? Let's take a look. Well, there he is. Look Tipsy to me. Any word on Final Fantasy IX remake from that Pinguino? That was on the Nvidia list, right? I think at best that's going to be a remaster, just like everything else. And I have no word on that, but we'll see. Okay, Absby just sent me a cheese twist recipe from your British food nemesis. Okay, I will click on that once the show's over, and I'll report back on my cheese twist opinion. Let's see here. All right, what are they doing? It already starts off so unappetizing. Okay, who stood me? Hi, Jeff. I'm a lifelong Texan moving to Colorado. Sorry. Yes, I'm sure you've been yelled at as either a Texan or Texans or Californians moving to Colorado get yelled at. I don't mind so much, but whatever. I'm leaving. Any advice you can impart with me? Yeah. Take advantage of everything. Like, don't just don't sit around. Like, go out to the mountains. Drive out to Breck. Drive out to Vale and stuff. Like, you don't have to go get an inexpensive hotel. Just make a day trip of it. Like, make sure you do that every once in a while. At Christmas, there's this thing called the Georgetown Loop Railroad. It is a gorgeous train that is like, so they decorate for Christmas. Santa Claus comes there. Even if you don't have, it's great with kids, but even if you don't have kids, it's so like atmospheric and moody and nice. And if you do it at night, they have all the Christmas lights outside. If you do it during the day, they take you through Santa's village or whatever. And you can get like the first class cabin or whatever, and it's not that expensive. And you get a little table, and they bring you drinks and snacks and stuff, and it's really a great way to spend some Christmas time with family and stuff like that. I'm gonna miss that so much. And you're not far from like Albuquerque. Drive down for the hot air balloon festival. You're not far from like some don't go to the Denver Zoo, go to the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. It's literally a zoo in the mountains. Kind of, you have to go south, but it's great. Yes, I don't know, there's a lot of great stuff in Colorado. Take advantage of it. That's the stuff I'm gonna miss. I like seeing the mountains a lot. I'm gonna miss that, but mostly it's like, okay, we did a lot of the cool stuff, and I don't feel so bad because we did take advantage of stuff while we lived there. All right, let's see these last few. What upcoming game are you excited for? I don't know what, like, we got through most of them, right? So now I'm kind of waiting for them to announce like Metroid Prime Remaster and the Zelda, like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker for Switch. I would like that stuff to come out. I would play those probably again. I'm glad that SnowRunner's getting its next gen update, so people can play that game at 60 frames per second finally. Stuff like that. So I don't know. Ooh, I just killed it. Oh, there's the cheese twist. Oh no. They're attacking us. All right, everybody. Let's wrap this up. Let's get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I am gonna go feed these kids a lot of Rice Krispie treats. Just so many. They're not feeling good. They deserve a treat. My kid woke up today. She wasn't feeling good, so she goes. She's got apraxia of speech, which is a cousin of what Bruce Willis has, aphasia, but not exactly the same thing. She mostly struggles with the motor function. So she says, "I want Otein," and I'm like, "Ovaltine?" And she's like, "Oh no," she's saying protein because she heard me talk about how protein's good for you. She wants to feel better, so she's asking to eat protein. So I got her some peanut butter and some chicken and stuff like that because she really wanted protein. So I'm gonna go see if she still wants some more, wants some lunch. Get these kids all fed, take care of myself. Go check out these emails about that I got to do for moving in the house and everything. So yeah, thanks for showing up. Thanks for all the questions. It was so great. You guys did a really good job bringing like a lot of interesting stuff to talk about this week. We'll do this again next week. Until then, though, take care of yourself. Have a good one. And goodbye.